how do you preserve muscle mass, but you go and do endurance? And it's like, if you understand how to actually program the human body, and again, it's fully referenced, so there's even further reading, and it's just sort of saying, this is how you do it. It's not, I suppose it's been there. All the research has been there. People have done it for years and years, but it's now actually just putting it into a book where people go, oh, the penny kind of drops each chapter. So there is a fat loss chapter. So if you want to look to manipulate your body composition, you for your Iron Man, if they're saying, Brian, we need to improve your power to weight ratio, then bodybuilders, Dorian Yates, Dorian was an absolute expert at manipulating his physiology, the best.
Yeah.
And so he has something very valid to say. If you understand like muscular hypertrophy, how to increase muscle mass, body composition, Dorian's amazing. But then all of a sudden, if you want to learn about speed, I was fortunate enough to train down at Brunel University with Linford Christie. There is no one quicker, and some of the athletes that he's producing now, incredible. He understands plyometric. He took Verkhoshansky's work, ballistic training, and just basically did this with it. So there's a whole chapter on that. The same with how to increase power, how to increase stamina. And I won't ruin it for everybody, but each chapter has this, and I call them pyramids of priority. So with everything, there's always, if you think about it, there's a pyramid there, and there's a hierarchical way to actually achieve the goal. And if you look at, let's take fat loss, because that's probably what a lot of people, at the bottom of this pyramid of priority, you have fat loss. And the first one is just taste, because, you've gone vegan, so when you're saying, okay, I'm going vegan, this is completely alien, what do I eat? And if all of a sudden it was just like, here you go, kale. And you were like, but I don't like kale. And it was like brown rice. And you're like, I don't like brown rice. Well, this diet is doomed to fail. International Journal of Obesity 2008 found that weight loss was highest in those most adherent. It didn't matter about the diet, didn't matter about the macronutrient, most adherent. That's it.
So people who stuck to the diet or not?
Exactly, yeah. Okay. So behavioural science, and we're only just looking at that now to try and treat obesity. We've been looking at like,
nutrition.
It's just behavioural science.
Right.
Actually look. So there, bang. Bottom of the pyramid. Then you go up, laws of thermodynamics, calories in versus calories out. And a lot of people want to say calories don't matter, or no, they do matter. It's applied to us for absolute years. Yes, it's based on 18th century French physics. We cover that in the book, but it's absolutely valid. But you have to expand your thinking beyond that. So you move up, then you look at macronutrients, protein, fats, and carbs. And you understand that of yours, so for instance, using you as an example, it's like, okay, you've gone vegan. You've got 2 energy yielding macronutrients. You've got fats and you've got carbs. Which one does your body run better on? And do you know? Have you experimented, or is it both? Is it a dual fuel of the two?
That's a great question. I do know that I have to have carbs like at least a couple hours before I do my calorie outputs. And of course I do consume carbs even during my longer workouts.
Okay.
So that seems to get me out of this grumpy mode where I fail.
Right.
So
right.
It seems more likely, but I haven't done any testing.
No. And you almost don't. And this is the thing. I want people, when they're reading the book, to go, I don't know. And it's just like, well, hang on. Okay, I'll wake you up in the morning and I cook you breakfast in bed. What do you want me to wake you up with? Avocado, like spread with, eggs on top. Like, oh, that sounds good. Peanut butter. And they're like, yeah, I love peanut butter, almond butter. And they go, yeah, okay, cool. Then you might be fat adapted. You might run really well on fats. Or do you want some granary loaf, porridge oats with honey drizzled on top? And people go, oh yeah, no, that sounds good. Cool, you're probably carb adapted. And sometimes it's just taking everything back, void of, all the science and pseudoscience of it. It's just like, what will your body run best on? And that goes back to the book that you are your best nutritionist. You're your best expert. I think too often nutritionists have almost like a messiah complex, and they want to say, that is your diet, Brian, you follow it because I told you to. And you're like, what? But really, you're going to know best. And that's what this book tries to do. So all of a sudden you go, yeah, I'm carb adapted. Cool, right, great. So going back to this pyramid of priority, bang, we now know of your 2 energy yielding macronutrients that you are predominantly carb based. Yes, cool. And then you move up. And as you go up, then you look at how your nutrition actually interacts with your exercise. So you look at nutrient timing, and we move up. And at the very, very top of the pyramid, you start looking at things like wine and chocolate. And people go, hey, okay, this is a diet I can go with. You can get, and it's like, yeah, but start looking at chocolate, dark chocolate, like the Mayans used to, their definition of chocolate, high in cocoa, flavanols, good for cognitive functioning, cardiorespiratory disease, combating that, everything. Red wine, high in resveratrol, like amazing studies on that at the moment, phytochemical, looking at, anti-aging, all sorts of things. But you can only do that
if
when
the other pieces are there.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. And it's exactly the same. You look at the strength chapter, you look and at the very top, you start looking at, rate of force development, bands and chains, and they're quite, attractive to sort of go and, play around with in the gym. It's cool. It's like, yeah, but that's at the top. We've
Right.
got a lot to cover before
Just
we get there.
basics before that. Okay.
Exactly. The same with speed, the same with stamina, that, every single thing, but the book just puts everything how it should be. And if you plateau in your training at any given point, you go straight back to the book. And that's what I love, that it will always be sitting on someone's shelf. And even when people are chatting down the gym, I'll say, it doesn't matter your level, but I've plateaued on my squat, or I can't run a sub 50-minute 10K. Go back to the book, because there'll be something in that pyramid you're not doing. And that's what I can't wait, that it's a user's guide for your body.